Well, I'm joined now by the SNP's Stewart Maxwell, the leader of the Scottish Greens, Patrick Harvie, and from Edinburgh by Labour's Sarah Boyack. Good evening to all of you. Patrick Harvie, we've heard from Labour and the SNP over the last few days. What's the Green Party's view of the independence debate as it now stands?
Well, we've long said that we want to campaign for a yes vote for independence, but that we are open to the idea of a multi-option referendum. It's interesting that it's only now, once the UK media and the UK government have started taking account of this whole question, that momentum is starting to build around a third option. Now, I don't know what that third option would look like. I certainly think that if it's going to be on the ballot paper, it has to be much more clearly defined than anyone has got close to so far.
What would you be happy with? I
would be happy with a referendum that either had one question, yes, no, or a multi-option question.
Yeah, what would the multi-option question ask? How far would those powers go?
I'm not going to define it because it's not my party's policy. I'll be arguing for a yes vote for independence. My party will keep on debating it. The last time we did that, we refined and reaffirmed the view that independence was what we wanted, but that we were comfortable with a multi-option referendum.
So you don't mind having a second question, you just don't want, you don't care what the answer is to the second question?
It's for others who support Devo Max, Devo Plus, whatever the in-betweeny versions are. It's for people who support that option to define it. And it does have to be defined if it's going to be on the ballot paper. People have to know what they're voting for. And so far, no one really has much of a clue what Devo Max even means. If it meant everything except the power to get rid of Trident, I think a lot of people would be very disappointed.
It's up to your government, Stewart Maxwell, to perhaps define that second question. This consultation document you're hoping to publish in the next couple of weeks. Help Patrick Harvie out. What do you mean by Devo Max?
Well, I would disagree. I don't think it's up to our government to define Devo Max at all.
So you're not in charge of the referendum?
No, it'd be up to the Parliament to decide what goes on the ballot paper, not up to the government. So the Parliament will decide.
Who is most of the MSPs in the Parliament?
Well, absolutely, it's the SNP.
So we're back to the SNP.
But frankly, the SNP's policy, like Patrick's party, is we will be supporting independence. We'll be campaigning for independence every day between now and the referendum. But there's a huge swathe of opinion out there. Every opinion poll shows it, and certainly the campaign that seems to be getting underway from various parts of Civic Scotland, the churches, students' groups and various other bodies who are supporting something short of independence. I think we have to listen to them. We have to go through the consultation, and then they have to, I think, define what they mean by that, and then we can decide where we go from there.
That's an interesting principle, isn't it? Because if you can get a question on the referendum because opinion polls say the public wants something, well, that opens it up to lots of other issues, doesn't it? Why don't you also have a question which says in or out of Europe, or a question which says should we or should we not reinstate the death penalty? No, opinion polls have strong opinions on all of those issues.
I think you misunderstand what I said. I mean, what I said was the opinion polls show that there's a body of opinion that supports that, but clearly there's a Civic Scotland...
And based on that, you would shove it onto a referendum?
Not based on that. Based on a campaign by a lot of groups, serious individuals, the churches, the voluntary organisations, who are beginning to speak up and say that they want an opinion and a debate that really
centres around... But there's no democratic mandate for that,
Well, I think there may well be. It's the position of the Liberal Democrats and has been a long time.
In the May election, which party had it in their manifesto?
Well, in the election last year, it's the Liberal Democrat position. It has been a position for, I think, almost 100 years about home rule. So clearly there are parties that support it. What's strange about this is that the parties that support it have suddenly stood with the Tories and said, we're having nothing to do with it. That's the strange thing here.
Sarah Boyack, why doesn't your party support further powers, and why don't you jump onto what seems to be a bandwagon supported by the majority of Scots, as Stewart Maxwell has just outlined, and say, you know what, we're the Labour Party, we'll go with what the Scots want and we'll campaign for more powers?
Well, we think we want a clear referendum. It's got to be a fair referendum, and when that referendum is concluded, regardless of who wins or loses, we need to know what the answer of the Scottish people was, and it needs to be a clear question. I would say that over the last 12 years we've had devolution, it's worked, and we have actually strengthened devolution.
Do you not think the Scottish people are capable?
On marine powers, we've had the debate on the Scotland Bill.
Do you not think the Scottish people are capable of deciding whether or not they support independence, and also capable of going on to a second question to decide whether or not they support greater powers for the Scottish Parliament?
I think it would be confusing, and I think the choice will be strong devolution versus independence. They are two different constitutional routes, and we need to be clear about that. And in the Chamber today, it was absolutely clear that all of the parties who fought the election last year are clear that we should have a clear result. The SNP want independence, the Greens want independence, the other three parties want to stick with devolution. That's the choice that we need to put forward. The key thing today was that Alex Salmond appeared to ask the rest of us to wait for a couple of weeks before he deigns to tell us what the fourth consultation that the SNP's come up with in nearly 4.5 years, their fourth consultation in independence, what that's going to say next. There is a demand for greater powers in the Scottish Parliament, and that's a debate that's been going on for the last 12 years.
Okay.
We also think we need to talk about how we use those powers, but the referendum is now there, we need to go to it.
Thank you. Patrick Harvie, do you think it's democratic to have a second question when nobody seems to have been able to have voted for it in May?
We've got 2.5 years before the government's preferred date for the referendum.
So let's have a referendum to decide what should be in the referendum.
No, I think we should allow ourselves to use some of that time and not close down this question.
But where's the democratic mandate?
Well, there are certain things for which there is a democratic mandate, and there are certain things for which there is not. There's a mandate, clearly, that there should be a referendum. That comes from the election win that the SNP had.
I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that. Where's the electoral mandate to have a second question which isn't just about independence, but is about greater powers for the Scottish Parliament?
Sure. The fact of the referendum, there's a mandate for it. The timing in the second half, there's a claim, I'd say a good claim for a mandate for that timing as well. But there's no clear mandate either way for what the form of the referendum should be. One or two questions. In a democracy, we debate it.
But you can't have that question because voters haven't voted for it.
Well, voters haven't voted either way on a one or a two question. That question is not settled by the existing mandate, by the election. Some things were settled by the election. This wasn't. And I think it's quite reasonable that we should consult widely and actually allow the idea to build momentum. If it is going to be a serious issue, a serious proposal,
this is going to be your
see it
party's
defined.
big moment. Why are you allowing things to become confused? Isn't it just simpler to say to the Scottish people, we're the SNP, we believe in independence, vote yes or no?
That's exactly what we're saying. I mean, that's exactly the campaign we'll be running. We are running a campaign for independence. We believe that is the absolutely the best option.
Question?
No, what we have said is we're open to the debate. We're not trying to shut the debate down.
Why are you open to that debate?
Because
what's
clearly
your tactical
there is a
advantage
campaign.
in having that second
It's not
question?
about a tactical advantage.
What's it about then?
What it's about is there is clearly a wide body of opinion that supports a policy of devolution with greater powers than currently exists. We should listen to that, have the consultation, have the debate, allow all these groups to take part in that debate, and then take a decision whether or not an additional question, a multi-option referendum, should be the best option. The people of Scotland have the right to choose. We should not shut down the argument. We should not restrict that argument. We shouldn't say to them, we know better than you do. People have the right to choose, and I think that's the fundamental principle that's behind this.
Sarah Boyack, have you decided now that autumn 2014 is going to be the date of the referendum? The Labour Party are happy with that now, are they?
Well, we're actually still waiting to hear what the date would be that is being proposed.
But okay, the season, are you happy with the season?
Well, at least we've got a rough idea of when Alex Salmond might deign to have that referendum. We'll have been waiting 7 years by that time. I think we need to get on with it. I think we need a proper, robust and honest debate that involves the whole of the people of Scotland about what independence would mean. That is the choice. Do we want to go down the independence route, or do we want to make devolution work better? And I think there is a need to have Civic Scotland involved in this process. That was the lesson of the last referendum. That's why it was successful. It had credibility, it was clear, it had a mandate for action, and Labour acted on that. But we didn't just do it on our own, we did it with all parties and none, those who wanted to be part of that discussion. And I don't think it's up to Alex Salmond on his own to determine the nature of that referendum. It's got to be a broader discussion.
But if you're going to start a civic process, a participative civic process, and that's great, I've been calling for that for years actually, you don't begin it with a conclusion. You have to begin it with open-mindedness on questions like the form of the referendum. You know, I think there's a real power that could be gained, a real sense of public authority for the referendum. But we can only get to that if we start with open-mindedness on some of these questions and a genuinely inclusive spirit.
There has to be an open debate here, and the people of Scotland must be given that free choice. We should not shut down this debate before it's even started. People are always saying they don't quite know what independence means, they don't know what devo max means. Well, let's give people the chance and the time to reflect and understand what all these positions are before coming to a decision. That's what this is about. Let's give people a choice.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. That's all we have time for, sadly. I'm sure we will be debating this for quite some time. Thank you all very much.